Next on TV 13.
This is the Pikes Peak Marathon, the third and final leg of the KRDO Triple Crown of Running and America's Ultimate Challenge. Today's program is brought to you by Red Top Restaurants, NCI Telecommunications, Grand West Outfitters, and by the Rocky Mountain Law Center. And now your host, John Glenn.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to KRDO's exclusive coverage of the Pikes Peak Marathon Ascent. I'm John Glenn, and with us one more time is our expert color commentator, Rick Rojas. Rick, thanks for being with us tonight.
Good to be here, John.
All right, now this is one of the oldest marathons in the world and one of the most challenging courses in the world.
Yes, it is. I think this course is probably the most challenging course in the world as far as the marathon distance go. It starts flat for the first mile, and then through the French Creek at 9,000 feet, through Bar Camp at 10,000 feet, and the A-frame at 12,000 feet, finishing at about 14,000.
So you've got a 7,000-foot altitude gain. It's extremely difficult. We'll start off tonight's show with the ascent. A beautiful morning on Saturday morning. You couldn't ask for anything better. The sun coming right up about 7 o'clock in the morning. Beautiful 65 degrees at the base of the mountain, about 29 to 30 degrees up on top.
Again, the weather couldn't have been better. I think the Triple Crown this year has been blessed with fantastic weather.
You get some great shots there. We had 6 crews in the mountain on Saturday, all the way from the bottom all the way to the top. 6 crews doing an excellent job of giving us an idea of what this looks like. There you see the city of Manitou Springs, a nice pull-out all the way up to the top of Pikes Peak, 14,000 feet.
It's beautiful. Look at that shot of the peak up there.
We go from the top back down to the bottom the way it looks at the start. As I mentioned, it was about 65 degrees. We had about 1,500 runners at the start, so it was a good morning for running.
Yes, it was, and you can see it's a little bit brisk down here at the start, and there's some people warming up. There's a nice stretch shot right there, a man warming up. He's doing the right thing before a race like this.
Now, Rick, how important is it? You've got to about 13.4 miles straight up a mountain. How important is it to work out in the morning?
Well, as far as the warm-up goes in the morning, I think all you need to do is stretch a little bit. The first mile affords you a chance really to get warmed up on a flat before hitting the uphill.
Of course, there's a lot of runners in the pack here. They're stretching out a lot. They're getting stretched out because this is going to be a tough race, but one everybody is looking forward to.
Well, just from the altitude, it's going to be pretty tough. It's not easy to breathe once you get above like 10,000 feet. We took a ride up earlier in the day, and it was just very, very hard to breathe at high altitude.
I know it's going to be tough. I'm looking forward to it, though.
Yeah, I've been up the course. I've hiked up it before, and I don't think it's all that hard compared to running up another mountain in Colorado.
I don't know why I keep doing it. You get to Timberline, you keep saying, I'll never do this again, I'll never do this again, and you come back.
Yeah, I love it. It's a wonderful thing to do every year. Look forward to it. I think it keeps you going.
So, do we go with MCI or not? Look, John, we've been over all this. I'll admit I like the billing ideas. I like how they can tie all of our locations together. But I just can't believe the quality's as good as what we have. That's why I had them install some lines. Yeah? Including one on your phone. You mean all the calls I've been making have been... That's right. Touché.
Until you call, you'll never know how much better a long-distance company can be. MCI. Let us show you.
In the heart of Colorado Springs, there's a legend that lives on. It's the story of a great family and a burger that has a story all its own. And the legend is sure to grow, 'cause everybody knows once a meal at Conway's Red Top.
Me, I like the simple things, like being out here. But before I head for the outdoors, I head for Grand West Outfitters. Grand West has everything I need when it comes to outdoor clothing and equipment, from basic camping accessories to highly technical climbing equipment. They even have a valuable customer resource center. And as for service, well, you won't find a more knowledgeable and helpful bunch of people anywhere. Yes, sir, Grand West Outfitters. I won't go anywhere else.
accident is no laughing matter when it happens to you. If you're injured in an accident, the Rocky Mountain Law Center can help you pick up the pieces. We'll make sure your rights are protected and maximize your recovery from the insurance company. Call 633-8900 for your free consultation. The Rocky Mountain Law Center, to help you get back on the road to recovery.
Welcome back, everybody. You know, the Ascent race started out Saturday morning, 7 a.m. without a hitch. It was a great morning for a race.
It was beautiful, and the start was beautiful, too. The runners got off to a clean start. There were no bumping, no hassling. It was very nice.
You have 1,500 runners there, Rick. It's got to be congested when you're taking off on a race like this, especially when you're going over 13 miles up a mountain.
I think the key to a start in this is to really relax, make sure you don't jostle or bump the partner next to you, and just really relax for the first mile or so.
You mentioned the first mile or so. It's on cement, and they're going to go to a gravel mixture, then all of a sudden to a path format. What's that like running?
Most of the runners are used to running on a hard surface. I think the biggest thing they need to be aware of is making the transition from a hard surface to a nice soft surface.
Here we go through downtown Manitou. Of course, we've got Scott Elliott moving out very quickly with Walter Sargent hot on his heels. Is it smart to start out fast like that?
Not really. I think that he probably could have started off a lot slower and saved himself a little bit of energy for the first mile or so, because Sargent does catch him at the 3-mile point.
Here we're going up toward the Cog Railway and then on to Bar Trail. It's very interesting, in fact, he's already pulled out to maybe a good 10-second lead right there, and now he hits the dirt and the gravel mixture, so it's got to be tough in this first couple of miles.
I think psychologically he wanted to do that. I think he wanted to be the first one to the trailhead and establish a lead going through the W curves.
Now for the pack runners, it's got to be difficult as well. You're going uphill almost immediately. You've got a short course in downtown Manitou Springs, but then immediately you're hitting a hill, and you notice here in the video, some of the people are actually walking up this path.
That's right, and that's not a bad idea, because what you want to do is save your running muscles and trade off between the walking and running muscles, give them a break.
Now, how much training do you need on something like this on a mountain? Do you have to have mountain training if you want to succeed at this race?
Absolutely. I think if you want to be in the top finishers in this race, you do have to spend some time on the mountain.
In the early going, especially here in the W's, the switchbacks early on, it gets quite congested. Here we see the top 3 runners, Scott Elliott, Walter Sargent, and Michael Tobin, and they've all got about a 2-second lead on each other, so it's kind of congested right here.
Already, you'll notice that they've already eaten up Scott. They've caught up to him after about 2.5 miles here. So actually the first lead that he had in the first mile of the race didn't do him that much good.
You can see the rest of the 1,500 runners here in a second once they go past the switchback right here. It's very congested. The runners actually slow down to a crawl. Psychologically, does that bother them because they might think this is actually a running marathon?
Yes, I think it might to a certain extent. I think if you hadn't had experience in the course before and all of a sudden you find yourself walking, then it can be very discouraging. Most of these people are very well experienced in the course, though.
You saw 4 and 5 there. Brent Friest was in 4th right there. But the pack runners are coming up. It was a beautiful morning. There you see downtown Manitou Springs, a nice pullout by one of our crews. It was a nice morning. It was hot at the bottom. It got kind of cool the closer you got to the top. And there, of course, is our lead female right there. It's kind of tough being the lead female right here, especially when you haven't run this course many times.
That's right. And Barbie is actually from sea level. She lives here in Colorado Springs, but she did get off to a very fast start, and that really is a lack of experience. She started off a little bit too fast and catches up to her later on.
There's Janie Day sitting back in 4th place right now. She's kind of taking her time. She's run this so many times, she knows her strategy to a T.
That's right, and Janie was very deliberate, very slow to start off with, and that was a very good strategy on her part.
There you see the runners, or make that the walkers, it should say at this point. You also mentioned to me before, several runners there have backpacks on their hind ends to give them some nourishment on the way up.
We call those fanny packs.
Okay, here's Bar Camp. It's the major water stop for the area. There you see Walter Sargent overtaking the #1 position. He is #1 now, followed by Scott Elliott in #2 and Michael Tobin in #3. And as we mentioned, Bar Camp is a major water stop. How did the water get there? We have to say thank you to Fort Carson. Moving 2,000 gallons of water up Pikes Peak is not an easy task. That is, unless you're Fort Carson's A Company of the 158th Aviation. They volunteered to airlift the water up the mountain using a Chinook helicopter.
It just wouldn't be possible to do it any other way except for sling loading under a Chinook. And that's just one of the things we have here, a big asset and a real good resource that we can afford to use.
This crew's mission was clear. Drop 6 shipments of water bottles on 3 sites in the peak. Sound complicated?
This is a relatively easy mission. It's light load. The only problem is the altitude. But, you know, we're capable of carrying 26,000 pounds, and these are less than 2,000 each. So this is really no problem. We're going to take up 2 nets at a time. We could do that, but the problem is they're going to bounce together and break the bottles. We're going to take, so we decided to take 1 net at a time, do 6 trips up. That'd be about it.
Without the help of Fort Carson, the marathon directors would have had to haul the water using pack animals or pack people. That would have taken more time and resources, which Fort Carson provided for free.
The way we could afford that kind of support, according to the U.S. military, running something like it's about $7 grand an hour. Needless to say, that our support from the U.S. Army is tremendous, and we really appreciate it.
And so do the runners.
It's real valuable. You know, without the water, you couldn't finish. Well, you could probably get up. You could probably go 10 miles without much water, but after that, it becomes a survival test.
As you can tell, water is very important if these athletes want to make it all the way to the top of Pikes Peak. We'll take a water break right now. We'll be back right after this.